What's up? It's me again, Carson. Welcome back to my home. Not much has changed since last week. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the discussion assignment, per usual. But before we get into that, I want to run an idea by you. Okay? Now, you might hate this idea, and if you do, keep it to yourself. But if you love it, let me know. Because I was thinking that every good YouTube channel has like a theme song, you know. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. We're just gonna do this real quick, and then we'll talk about math and stats and whatever else. Okay. Yeah. Stat discussions with Carson, where we talk about the week. Stat discussions with Carson. We talk about stats. We talk about math. We talk about everything. Not bad. Not bad, right? So just think on that. If you like it, send me an email, like and subscribe, or whatever. If you hated it, I guess that's more of a you thing than anything. So let me put that over there. Okay, let's get into it. Let's at least get into a little bit about the class. So today is Thursday, depending on when you're watching this. Today, ideally, is Thursday for you. Same day that the discussion is due, so at noon. And then on Monday is homework 2, that is due. On Monday at noon, right? Not midnight, at noon. And then the following Thursday, so a week from now, there is test 1. It's your first test. And it's going to contain the material from week 1, 2, and 3. It's going to have an even sort of distribution of those 3 weeks. So it's not going to be all week 1 or all week 2 or all week 3. It'll be, pretty manageable, I think. And if I've done it correctly, it should take you no longer than a typical homework assignment. If you sit down and just crank it all out in one session. Again, you don't have to crank it out in one session because you have pretty much 12 hours to do it. 9 to 9, right? So if you work during the day, don't worry about it. Or if you work at night, also don't worry about it. You got some time to do it. Or if you just want to kind of take a casual, like a question an hour kind of situation, then you'll be set and still have like 5 hours left over. So it's all there. One thing that I would recommend, though, is that if you're used to doing your work on the weekend, I would probably, like the weekend before the stuff is due, I would probably not do that for the test, just because you will be missing out on quite a bit of information, especially in this third week, where we get into what are called Z-scores. I'm not going to so much worry about it in this video, but that's probably the most math-intensive thing in this class. And that's about the cap, I would say. So it's not hard. It's not hard. You just got to sit down and get the process right. So that's that. Now, I think that's everything except for one other thing. There's not going to be any homework due next week because you have a test next week, and it's stupid, frankly, to give you a bunch of stuff and stress you out because it's not my job to make you stressed out. So there will be a study guide. And it's called Homework 3. You don't have to turn it in. It's not going to be graded. But I do recommend that you do it because that will set you up, like, real good. I'm telling you. It'll set you up really good if you do this thing. Already you can kind of tell how I do things. I'm pretty relaxed. So do this, and you'll be 100% set. I think that's it. And then next week I'm planning on having a study session, probably 2, one for people who are available in the morning, one for people who are available at night, probably like Tuesday, Wednesday, so keep an eye out for that too. I haven't finalized that, but that's the idea. Okay, discussion, right? So the reason why I did all of this and talking about this, one is so you can face-to-face kind of see me and get it straight from the source, but 2, the discussion question, depending on when you answered it, was totally oriented around the stuff that we did this week. So the mean, calculating the mean, calculating the median, calculating the mode, calculating kind of find the mode and kind of find the median, but the mean does require some math, and then the standard deviation, right? So real quick, I'll just give you some kind of refreshing points on what those represent, because they're very important from here on out. I'll start with the mode, because that's the easiest to understand, but that's just the most frequent thing that happens. Now, in discrete data, so when we have data that's just like 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5 rounded numbers, you can have a mode of just one thing. But when you have continuous data, so decimals or fractions or whatever, very infrequently will you get a number that shows up exactly twice, so the exact same number. It's very rare to get, like, if you're measuring 3 decimal points out, it's very rare to get the same value, right? So that's why we put things into bins on histograms, so we're able to kind of see the most frequent range of values rather than a single one. Okay. Again, the mode is unfortunately not used all that often. It does tell you, it's very helpful in making pictures, but as far as reporting, it's not super helpful because you either are the mode or you are not, right? And there are more non-modes than there are modes. Okay. And then we move on to the median, which is helpful. It tells you smack dab right where the middle is. Sometimes there's a value right there in the middle. Sometimes there isn't. We have to kind of find the middle imaginary number. Not imaginary numbers like in math, but imaginary because it's not there, right? That middle point. And that value tells you that everything below it makes up 50% of your data, and then everything above it makes it 50% of your data. It's perfectly symmetric, which is wonderful. So oftentimes you'll see like median house costs or whatever, median rent per month. That is helpful to kind of tell you, all right, that's the middle point. Does it tell us, how much does it tell us other than that, right? Sometimes it's intelligible, sometimes it's not very helpful. That's where we get to the mean, though, and that's where if you were to bring all 3 of these together when you're doing, cost analysis or you're looking to move somewhere, right? Looking at all 3 of these things often helps, right? Because you are able to say if they're all about the same value, then you know that probably the distribution of whatever you're looking at is normal or close to normal, right? But if you get way different values for all these things, then your distribution is up in the air and nobody knows what it looks like, right? It makes it much more difficult to kind of figure out what you're looking at. And so the mean, again, is just this sort of expected value where if I were to point at you and say, I think that you are whatever we're measuring, whatever the mean is, I'm probably going to be right within some kind of standard deviation, right? Because we've talked about the distribution, or we will talk about, I can't remember when I introduced it, but the distribution of values, if it's normally distributed, there's a big chunk that's within 1 standard deviation, and an even bigger chunk in 2 standard deviations. And very infrequently will you get anything outside of that, right? So I can guess at, if we're looking at heights, I could point at you and say, I expect you to be 5'10", okay? And I'm probably going to be right within 1 standard deviation. So plus or minus like an inch or an inch and a half or something like that, right? And people are cool with that. So they all tell you different stories. And the whole goal of all these summary statistics is to tell you, kind of in general how your data are behaving, right? Because it's very difficult to just throw up a bunch of numbers of data and just look at it and be like, all right, sweet, I don't know what to do with this. You draw pictures, you draw a histogram, you draw a box plot, right? You report the mean, the median, and the mode if you can, right? But the mean and the median definitely help. And then you're able to kind of digest all of that information a little bit better. So with that, I'm sure that this was redundant for you because I'm positive you've got a good handle on it. Already I can kind of tell. So very stoked for you, specifically you watching this video. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be posting all the stuff for next week pretty soon. I'll probably actually do it early just so you have some more time. So you'll see this in just a little bit. But I'll see you later.